For he shall have judgment without mercy that has showed no mercy, and mercy rejoiceth against judgment. It's mercy, and we were talking a little bit about mercy and having a critical spirit, a merciful spirit and a critical spirit. And it is often difficult, it seems, for those with a critical spirit to understand the value of mercy. And because for many people, mercy is looked at as weakness, especially if they grew up in a place where you could not show weakness. And I brought out about a month or so ago when I was preaching about the reproaches of Egypt. You remember that? About how that the Jews still had the reproach of Egypt upon them, and the Lord rolled it away from them. And I liken that to men and women who get saved, and yet they still have these things from their sinful past that are still operating within them, even though they're saved. And it may not be outright sin, but it's usually personality issues. And so, especially with people who grew up in environments where you really could not show any kind of mercy, because that would be looked at as weakness. And then they become a Christian, and you find out oftentimes they still operate that way. Some kind of mental defense going on, as if someone's going to attack them at any moment. And you find that it's really just a holdover from their past, that they are saved, but they haven't relinquished that part of themselves. Well, critical people I have found find it very difficult to understand that mercy is actually a strength, and it's actually more of a strength than the criticism or the critical spirit or that constant defensive spirit, the one that looks tough. But a merciful spirit with proper boundaries actually is tough. See, it's different to have to put on a show of toughness. That's not the same as actually being tough. You know, they tell you, be careful of the quiet person, right? Well, oftentimes that quiet person is the tough one, because they only show it when they have to. The others just want everyone to think they're tough, so they're constantly acting a certain way. Having a truly merciful spirit actually is a tough spirit, because often you have to overcome a lot of those same things that the critical person has, that they don't overcome. They just give into and show retaliation and show whatever. That merciful person has to overcome those same things, but they're willing to show forth mercy. And here in James 2:13, ultimately the mercy will rejoice. The person who's judgmental, the person who is often critical or often trying to get at somebody, maybe trying to get you before you get me. And it's like, we're all Christians. We're not trying to get anybody, right? But they kind of have this holdover from decades gone by. I've got to get you before you get me. Okay. And so, but there's no rejoicing in that. There is no rejoicing in that, because all that is a constant fear that someone is going to find out who I really am, how I really am, and they're going to hurt me yet again. Well, I'm not saying that there aren't Christians out there who would not take advantage of that and mock you and make fun of you and hurt you, because there are, sadly. But it's always the person who is looking to show forth mercy who actually has the stronger foundation to stand on. Mercy can rejoice. Okay, mercy can rejoice. Defensiveness, fear, criticism, judgmentalism cannot rejoice. It's because it's constantly protecting itself. And so James brought out here, he said, mercy rejoices against judgment. At the end of the day, that merciful person can lay their head down and know they've treated people right. They've done the best they could to follow peace. Whereas that one who's constantly on the attack or defense or whatever, they're never at peace. So the question, even before we get started, just kind of catching up from last Bible study, what kind of a person do you want to be? What kind of a life do you want to live? That doesn't mean you can't go to heaven. It's just I believe some people have a harder time getting to heaven. I'm not necessarily talking about sinning. I'm talking about just struggling with life. Many times people struggle with life. They struggle through life. There's constantly a struggle because the struggle is within them.